Hello and good morning to everyone who is looking, listening presently, and of course to all those who are tuning in later, and those who will watch this video on YouTube or Facebook or wherever else it will be available. Greetings to you from Ayya Phalanyani of Anenja Vihara in Germany. Since people are dropping by slowly, and since we have an hour long, which is oftentimes not enough, but yet it is quite long. So we will take while people come in and tune in. For the listening to the Dhamma. To be ready to be listening to the Dhamma means that we are awake. That our mind is as calm as possible in the given situation. So the less thoughts there are, the more Dhamma fits in, because there's room, there's space. So when you come, drop in. Just bring yourself into an upright position. I don't mind and I don't care whether you sit on a chair or cross-legged on the floor. Even I don't mind if you would sit on a sofa. As long as you sit in a position where you can bring yourself into an upright position. Your back should be upright, and that does make sense for various reasons. I don't know where you are, but here in Germany, we are after our lunchtime. So the body is full of lunch. And when I'm dropping and don't sit upright and sit so for long periods in meditation, it's impossible to digest. If you have pains in your back, for example, or in your neck, that could be a sign that you are not sitting upright. It could be also a sign that you have tensions, that you have tight and tensed shoulders, for example, or that your chest is falling back, or your neck is pulled into the front. And this all causes pain in the body. There must, by nature, be tension here in the muscles in the upper shoulders when you pull your head into the front. And if you want to sit upright with a head that is pulled into the front, lower back will start to hurt because the weight of the head is not resting on the shoulders and on the column, but there are muscles involved in carrying that weight, and those get tensed. So it is indeed important to really sit upright. And it also can make you somewhat drowsy when you're not fully upright. And just when you sit there, you can relax. You can relax your belly, your entire upper body. So that the air can fill your lungs to the fullest if you wish. And then all the organs are hanging there, just everything just hangs there, following gravity. The stomach, I don't care how you look. If there is a stomach, and there certainly is, then relax it. And it is full and round like a balloon. When you breathe in, not because you pull the air right into your belly, but because you fill your lungs, and the full lungs just massage your organs out of the way. So, being relaxed, not having anything tensed, not holding anything tight is very important. And you fill your lungs. And especially when you're living in the city, where the air is not so fresh, you can wrap your mind around the idea of inhaling all the good stuff that remains in the air. Or you can just breathe in and breathe out with goodwill in your heart, with goodwill for this body that sits there and the mind that thinks there. And we relax the shoulders. And we relax the neck. And open the chest. When you look at a Buddha image, a Buddha Rupa, the Buddha is never ever shown with a chest that is fallen back or pulled in. He's always depicted with a very open chest. As a sign for an open heart and a wide open and broad mind. We relax also the chin and the cheeks and the forehead. So until now we didn't have any focus, we just checked our body. Now we're making ourselves ready for the Dhamma, the intention to listen and to understand and to talk, of course. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning and good evening and good whatever. Oh, thank you, JS, for the information. I didn't know that. I thought my internet connection would be strong. Am I heard okay and to be seen okay? Okay, great. Thank you for the information. Then I just No, it's breaking off. I see it myself now. I will just move outside, not far away from here, where the internet connection is a little bit better. Hang on a second. Forgive me. I thought it would be okay today because this morning it was. So by that, you might see a little bit of our monastery, but not so much, because I'm really just going here to our hall. This is one of the halls, and this is in the nuns area. So although I might bother or disturb now my fellow nuns, I'm not going further than that. And here it should be okay. So you didn't interrupt, Alexander, the talk. It didn't really start yet. But now, having a better internet connection and being Well, I hope you don't get seasick, but here I don't have a table. Okay, let's see if it works like this. So now all settled, all ready for the Dhamma. We are going to talk about the Culavedalla Sutta. That was an idea of one of our friends here in the monastery who visited for 3 months, and she requested that I would talk about the Culavedalla Sutta. And this is just Tate, alles klar, perfect. So this is today in English, and tomorrow I'm intending. I hope I can speak about it. I can talk about it in German. It is Majjhima Nikaya number 44, Culavedalla Sutta, the shorter series of questions and answers. Thank you for your concern. Difference is spreading. Yes, I'm holding it with my hands, but I'm also holding Bhikkhu Bodhi's book, and I have a little bit of support here of, yeah, this here. So, I'll skip the intro and just tell you that this is about questioning of householder Visahka, who is said to have been a stream and a non-returner. And he questioned his wife, whose name was Dhammadinna, and she was a bhikkhuni, and she was among the foremost bhikkhunis who could teach the Dhamma. So this is a very, very dense and very powerful sutta. Imagine that. A non-returner and an arahant are talking about the Dhamma. And even though it's a non-returner and an arahant, the non-returner clearly doesn't get it all. And you know, all the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, they had kind of series of questioning, and they all knew where to stop. Not in this case. Visahka didn't stop, but we come to that maybe in the end. And I'm having here Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. But there are in the on the website Sutta Central. There you find of that very same sutta 4 translations into English, one of which is by Bhante Sudhaso. And this is pretty good. I'm used to reading Bhikkhu Bodhi, so I'm using that translation. Lady, he says, so Visakha addresses his former wife. He says, identity, identity, he said. What is called identity by the Blessed One? Friend Visakha, These 5 aggregates affected by clinging are called identity by the Blessed One. That is, the material form aggregate affected by clinging, the feeling aggregate affected by clinging, perception aggregate affected by clinging, the formations aggregate affected by clinging, and the consciousness aggregate affected by clinging. These 5 aggregates affected by clinging are called identity by the Blessed One. They are called aggregates of clinging for either someone who is not an arahant yet, but has entered the stream, so from a seika, from a learner onward, but of course also the worldling, one who has not ever heard anything of the Buddha's Dhamma, or somebody who has not any achievements. Good morning, Edward. So these in us, they are called aggregates affected by clinging, or clinging aggregates, they're called sometimes. In an arahant, they are only aggregates. And I'll repeat it just briefly for you so that we can remember better. There is the aggregate, the khandha. It's talking here, they talk about the 5 khandhas, right? So the first is the material form aggregate. Rupa khandha or rupupadana khandha. Then feelings, vedana khandha. Then there is sanya, perception. And the formations would be the sankhara and consciousness. Formations, this is, of course, is what is happening within our head, right? This is not about the formations around us. This is not about the lamp formation or the door formation or the sofa formation or the railing formation. It is about mental formations. Mainly, you could say it's thoughts. Hi, Alex. And these 5 aggregates is what we think we are. This is what we make our identity of. This is what we build our identity view on. So it's khandhas, the 5 khandhas, nothing special. Rupa is a very, very broad term that can mean any form, can mean a geometric form as much as a physical form like a body or a lamp. And the feeling, of course, all the feelings that we're capable of. And we think it's a lot, but it's actually not that impressive. It has a little variety, but we're happy or sad or angry or frustrated, but it's basically a few feelings with a little shadows or shades. I think it's called shades. It's actually not so impressive what we are capable of feeling. And even if we think it's a lot, it's just feeling. It's a khanda. It in itself is empty. And we think we can trust these things, That's the problem, but we can't. I was an actress before I ordained, also a comedian, but I worked as an actress in a theater. So I liked feelings. Just I thought they are important and they must go from high to low and high and low again, ever changing. And I wanted that because I thought this is living. And it's boring when the feelings are not going up and down so much. When you're even tempered, and it's really kind of boring. But once you start to understand that there is really nothing to it, and it changes anyway, and it changes so quickly, and you can create feelings, not even fake. I wouldn't say faking feelings, but you can create feelings and believe them and portray them believable and really feel them, then it's really, you start to think, you start to wonder, is this really trustworthy? And I must say, no, definitely not. Feelings are in no way trustworthy. They come and go. They can be created. They can be faked even. And they can change so quickly. One moment you are happy and the next it's just terrible. So I don't want to go into each and every of the five khandas in such depth. But I think we're going to talk about this sutta again next week because we won't get ready. We won't finish it this week, and there is no reason to hurry through it. So, the feeling aggregate. And I really know and understand how it is to feel and to be attached to your feelings. And to be attached to your feelings or cling to your feelings is really also the idea that I am right with it and I have all the right to feel like that. When somebody scolds you, you feel or insults you, you're under the impression that you have the right to feel insulted and you feel depressed or angry. And we want to be angry then. It's nothing that comes with reasoning or understanding. It's just something that pops up because we think this is appropriate in this moment. If that would be so, an arahant or the perfectly enlightened one would have gotten even more angry if that would be the right way to handle things. But he taught us no. Be full of patience, or at some point, when possible, be with upekkha. Dwell in the divine abode of upekkha. And there are no ups and downs anymore so much. Well, it is boring then. It is cooled down. We don't need to go. It's not shaking like the screen today. It's just even and still. And that might feel a little bit boring. And that might feel a little bit uninteresting. But that is peace. That is what we strive for, actually, that we work on, that we want, should want, if we are one who wants to become an arahant. So, but to all these aggregates, feeling, perception, we cling to. And we insist, when we have the perception, this person insulted me or said something wrong, then we take it so serious. Or when we feel a situation is in a certain way, let's say we think, I remember that, to think somebody doesn't like me. I was always afraid, oh, nobody likes me. So that's a perception. You perceive it. But that must not necessarily be true. It's also possible that it is totally different. That person you think doesn't like you just respects you and gives you space because they have a different upbringing, they have different ideas or whatever, for whatever reasons. Or you remember the story with the snake. That we think we see a snake walking through a forest, and then it turns out to be just a piece of string. Can be way around also. Our thoughts, so the mental formations, are terribly, terribly changeable. But once we have a perception, we make up our mind about it, and then we follow this idea. We follow that formation. Consciousness, in this case, I'm just repeating it. I said it often, I think, earlier, consciousness in this case is the mind consciousness. You should remember that in the Buddhist teaching, we have an eye consciousness, a nose consciousness, ear consciousness, a touch consciousness, and also a mind consciousness. And only this little part is what we're talking about here. So it's not that huge, big consciousness that we sometimes in the West, being used to Western philosophy, talk about. So we identify with that. In Pali, it is said Sakaya. Sakaya. So these 5 clinging aggregates are called identity. Then the lay follower Visahka rejoiced in the words and asked the origin of identity. The origin of identity, lady, what is called the origin of identity by the Blessed One? Visahka, it is craving, which brings renewal of being, is accompanied by delight and lust, and delights in this and that, that is, craving for sensual pleasures, craving for being, and craving for non-being. So, the origin of identity, the origin of these 5 clinging aggregates that make those aggregates, not just aggregates, but clinging aggregates, is in fact the craving. And she says, delight, accompanied by delight and lust. This is when, when we get fascinated, when we want to know more, hear more, feel more, have all those interesting feelings, have all those interesting news. This is the delight. And it's not just one thing that we delight in, but it can be, it really jumps from this to that. We are delighting in so many things. It's terrible. We're just, our delight and fascination is just jumping from one thing to the next, like the monkey in the forest, grasps one branch and then the other. And we're craving for sensual pleasures. Kama tanha, that is, craving for sensual pleasures. Then craving for being, bhava tanha, and craving for vibhava tanha. Vibhava tanha, if you ask me, well, you don't have to ask me, I'm just telling you, is everything that we don't want, that we reject. It's not only that we don't want to live anymore. It can be for some, I don't know, really close to arahantship. It might be the last straw, the last clinging to existence, or the last thought of, I want to get out of samsara. So somewhat rejecting existing. But for us, it is in fact everything that we reject. Then, Visahka, if you have questions, you just write them into the chat section. I try to follow a little bit. I might be then a little bit late, but I will try to answer questions if possible. So the next question Visahka is asking is cessation of identity. What is called the cessation of identity by the Blessed One? And there she says, friend Visahka, it is the remainderless fading away and ceasing, the giving up, relinquishing, letting go, and rejecting of that same craving. This is called the cessation of identity by the Blessed One. And so you have been craving and clinging, or we are craving and clinging, and what the word here is Sakaya Nirodha. Let me see. Sakaya Samudayo was the self, how it comes into being. And now they are talking about Sakaya Nirodha. So the cessation of identity view and Tanhaya Asesa Viraga Nirodho. So yes, the fading away, that is called the cessation. So he asks further, the way leading to the cessation of identity. What is called the way leading to the cessation of identity by the Blessed One? That would then be Sakaya Nirodha Gamini. And that is just, she says, the Eightfold Noble Path. Sakaya Nirodha Gamini is Samadhi, the right view, Samma Sankappo, the right intention, then the right speech, Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanto, the right action, intent. Here, let me check. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action. Of course, yeah, I was wrong in the English translation. Of course, it must be right action. Samma ajivo is the right livelihood. Samma vayamo is the right striving or right effort, as Bhikkhu Bodhi says it. Samma sati and samma samadhi. Lady, is that clinging the same as these 5 aggregates affected by clinging? Or is the clinging something apart from the 5 aggregates affected by clinging? Friend Visahka, that clinging is neither the same as these 5 aggregates affected by clinging, nor is clinging something apart from the 5 aggregates affected by clinging. It is the desire and lust in regard to the 5 aggregates affected by clinging that the clinging is there. And if when we think of it clearly, then of course the aggregates are not oh, there it is again. I'm sorry that I was kicked out, but I noticed and hope I find the right place to jump in again. So we were talking about that these 5 aggregates actually are not that what is clinging, but when there are no aggregates, there is no clinging, of course. When there is no body, how can I cling to a body, or anyone cling to a body? Or when there are no feelings, when there is no pile of aggregates, how can there be clinging? But once they are there, those aggregates, and because there is this desire or this aversion, or in general this tanha, then there is clinging. So this is why she says they are neither the same, nor is clinging something apart from the 5 aggregates, because it works only when the aggregates are there. His prayer, I find coming. I think that is just a comment and not a question. So we didn't speak much about, I didn't give many comments about the Eightfold Noble Path, because there is so much more in this sutta. And I have given myself 2 Wednesdays to get through through this sutta. So if there should be afterwards the idea or the wish to talk in more depth and about the Eightfold Noble Path in regards, for example, in regards to dukkha or the cessation of dukkha, then we can do that. But for now, we leave it at that and continue. So Visahka asks, how does identity view come to be? And Dhammadinna Bhikkhuni says, here, friend Visahka, an untaught, ordinary person who has no regard for noble ones and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, who has no regard for true men and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, regards material form as self, or self as possessed in material form, or material form as in self, or self as in material form. He regards feeling as self, or self as possessed of feeling, or feeling as in self, or self as in feeling. He regards perception as self, or self as possessed of perception, or perception as in self, or self as in perception. He regards formations as self, or self as possessed of formations, or formations as in self, or self as in formations. Not informations, but in formations. He regards consciousness as self, or self as possessed of consciousness, or consciousness as in self, or self as in consciousness. This is how identity view comes to be. And now, to understand what is meant here, somebody has tried, that was not me, but somebody has tried to find examples. And the example is, one may regard material form as a self. In a way, the flame of a burning oil lamp is identical with the color of the flame. So you identify the flame with the oil lamp, or you identify yourself with your body. Or one might regard self as possessing material form as a tree possesses a shadow, or a human body possessing a nose, or to know A human must have 2 legs and 2 arms, and otherwise it's not perfect. Or one might regard material form as in self, as, for example, the odor of a flower, or the lunch in the body, or the air that we breathe in the body. Oh, there's an important question. I am talking about Majjhima Nikaya, number 44, Culavedalla Sutta, this week and at least next week also. And the last thing, or one might regard self as in material form. For example, like a jewel in a casket. So we have ideas of how things should be. And well, we cling to these ideas. And that is difficult, of course. It is difficult to cling to the food that I have eaten at lunchtime and say, this is my food. This is in me, and I don't want to let go of it. I don't know if I ever get any more food, so I better keep this. This is not possible. So we have, with all the 5 aggregates, we have the idea to be it, to be possessed of, to be in, or it being in, it being me, mine, and the self. And that is why there is identity view. Simple as that. We started off with the identity, and here we understand, or start to understand, how we create this identity view out of these, because really we always, in regards to our feelings, in regards to our body, in regards to perceptions, to everything, we have the feeling, this is mine, this is myself, this belongs to me, this must be like that. A person must have all limbs. A person must have hair, for example. And we cling to this idea then. Visahka asks then, how does identity view not come to be? And that is right the opposite. Here, friend, a well-taught, noble disciple who has regard for noble ones and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, who has regard for true men and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, does not regard material form as self. JS has a wonderful question. Is wanting to get rid of desire vibhavatanya? Yes, because you have this desire still, and we have this attachment and craving and clinging, and we think of I am here and I want to get rid of this. That, of course, is vibhavatanha, yes. So now back to our text. So one is disciplined in their Dhamma, does not regard material form as self, or self as possessed of material form, or material form as in self, or self in material form. He does not regard feeling as self, or self as possessed of feelings, or feeling as in self, or self as in feeling. I was just hesitating a second because I thought of we even sometimes complain when people are not showing proper feelings that we expect them to show, and tell them, oh, you are, I don't know. How you say that? I mean, we sometimes say to the people, you are emotionless. I think that's it. You don't have any emotions. You don't feel anything. So this is actually not that we want somebody to be emotionless, but somebody who sits in upekkha would be without emotion, and that is good. And here is a question. Before I continue to read, I'll go to that. Should we not cling to the gender we are born into? Well, if you ask me, no. Why would we? I mean, what for? You can, but any clinging is of little help for your liberation from suffering. And of course, when you live there in society, you define yourself as your gender. You define yourself as a man, or you define yourself as a woman, or as what, I don't know the words in English, of all the specifications that are possible, but you identify yourself, and that is of no use for your enlightenment. It is there for you to identify and manifest your identity, and you build up a very strong identity view. But if you want to get rid of suffering, if you want to become an arahant, you must let go of this. And then gender and gender identity is of no importance whatsoever. There are some implications. I mean, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis live separate. and we have duties together. Bhikkhus have duties together with or for bhikkhunis, and way round, bhikkhunis have certain things to do. But this is not a gender identification. This is not to strengthen gender. This is just to that nobody gets abused and nobody gets so close that they would start having affairs and so on. There's another question. Let me just check. Is it the case that a renunciant life becomes right livelihood as part of Eightfold Path because it most effectively leads to cessation of identity view? That would be great. But I do believe that the renunciant life is a good livelihood, but also as a renunciant, you can definitely perform wrong livelihood. If you start, for example, to go and make what could you do for a livelihood? You could start to read the stars, or to look in a coffee cup and tell fortune out of the coffee rests, or things like that. Or you can teach lowly arts, which would be for a renunciant be anything but the Dhamma. So there are many things that also renunciants can make their intrinsically right livelihood a wrong livelihood. And there are many, many ways that a person who is not a renunciant has no intention whatsoever to ever become a bhikkhu or a bhikkhuni, but completely, totally lives right livelihood because they have abandoned everything that is harmful for them and for other beings. And they don't sell drugs, they don't sell alcohol, they don't sell people, or they don't kill animals and these things. So right livelihood is not only renunciant life, but it is much easier in a renunciant life, or in the life of a renunciant, to really try your best and live the right livelihood. I hope that was answering your question. So we were still talking too much already. So we were still here with that we do just not regard our 5 clinging aggregates as a self, as in self, as possessed by self, or being of a self. So basically, we regard nothing whatsoever within us or outside of us as a self. And we continue next week, I would think, with this same sutta, Culavedalla Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya number 44. I wish you a great day. I can't put my palms together to give you a blessing, so I give it one-ended. May you have a very good livelihood. May you have the possibility to walk on the Eightfold Noble Path. And may you be happy and healthy and protected and safe from every unfortune, from every danger, from every harm. May you be well. And with that, see you next week. Bye-bye. All the best. That's great, kid. I love that. So, bye.